Welcome to week 2 of our leadership conversations. Watasha has many roles as a leader in Muncie.
Early on, I knew that I would use my voice. That's what leaders do. They use their voice to affect change. I really am grateful for the relationship that the YWCA has with Commonway. You all moved into our neighborhood and you really have wrapped your arms around us. So we appreciate that as an organization. We need someone to depend on as well, right? Like the leader needs support and the helper needs help, right? Our message cannot be heard if it's filled with hate, and we don't want hate here. So now it's no longer can be ignored, and we have got to make sure that all people matter.
Welcome to week 2 of our leadership conversations that we are doing in conjunction with our series Lead Like Jesus. And I am so excited today to welcome my friend Watasha Griffin. And Watasha has many roles as a leader in Muncie. And while she doesn't come to Commonway Church on Sunday mornings, we feel that Watasha is such a part of our Commonway family as we've partnered with the YWCA and as we've spent time, together serving those women. So Watasha, thank you so much for doing this interview this morning. I know you've had a really busy week. So would you mind just telling us a little bit about who you are and who you lead?
Thank you, Jennifer, for the invitation. I really do appreciate it, and I really am grateful for the relationship that the YWCA has with Commonway. You all moved into our neighborhood, and you really have wrapped your arms around us, and so we appreciate that as an organization. Myself personally, I am actually from Muncie. My mom and my dad are here. Most of my family lives in Muncie, Indiana. I am the mother of 2 beautiful kids. I have a 16-year-old son, Shaka, and I have a 13-year-old daughter. Her name is Sanaya. And then my husband, Shaka Griffin, Sr., and he also is from Muncie and works for the city of Muncie. I have spent my years in nonprofit work. My career, my education is in social work. And so for the last 15 to 18 years, I've had the opportunity to lead in a nonprofit human services way. And so all of my work has been in relation to women and children. And so as of 2015, I became the CEO of YWCA Central Indiana. Prior to that, I spent 10 years at A Better Way Services as a prevention director there, coordinator and director. And so I moved across the street from A Better Way to YWCA and took the leadership role there. And the mission of the YWCA is definitely to eliminate racism and empower women. And so any job that I have, any work that I do, there has to be that component of uplifting the woman, equity and justice, and the support and empowerment of children. So women and children are really a part of all the work that I do.
So tell us a little bit about your team, like how many people are working at the YWCA that you're leading, and then how many residents are there that you're effectively leading as well?
We have 15 employees. We have a residential team who runs our emergency shelter program, which you all are familiar with. And then we have 3 others that work with racial and social justice. And so really the eliminating of racism component that we offer. And operations managers, facilities directors, accountants, marketing coordinators, case managers are there. So we currently in our residential program, I think we have 35 women and 4 children currently. And I'll say that the women in our emergency shelter residential programs, they are just everyday women, and life has just happened, So there's all walks of life, from young 18-year-old girls, human trafficked girls who come from other counties and cities and states, to 80-year-old, 75-year-old ladies whose lives have been destroyed. So it's beautiful. It's empowering. It's sad. It's frustrating. But if we can just give that person hope and safety for even one night, then I feel that we've done something.
Yeah.
To help. Yeah.
Well, that is a lot of hats that you wear and serve, and
they do it all. They run it. They just run through me, the checks and balances. But I be able to. I sit in my office and get to type on a computer and go out and talk about the work that we do and connect to sponsors and things like that and spread awareness. And my staff, I can trust them to run the organization and all of the entities there. So
that's awesome. That's great. You obviously have a really great staff and a really great environment. And so that's really cool. So, okay, here's a question that I'm asking everybody that comes onto our conversations here is, when did you first realize you were a leader?
I remember early on, I was maybe 9 or 10 is when I have the strongest memories. But my mother and my grandmother, they're all strong matriarchal women, my aunts. And so single, my mom was a single woman. My grandmother had 6 kids, and her and her husband ended up divorcing. And so my grandmother raised 6 kids, 3 women and 3 men. And my mom got pregnant with me at 17. And so again, I was in that house with my mom, my grandmother, and my aunts. And they always were involved in community service work. And they always had me at, food pantries. My grandmother ran a food pantry at our church. We used to march and pass out literature and flyers when folks were running for office, even as a young girl. My mother goes to the jail every Tuesday and talks to the women that were there and taught Bible study to them. And then Tuesday nights, she would go to the nursing homes and sing and play the piano. And so I was always pulled into all of those things. So it was like second nature. But then always knowing that they would always say that your voice matters. You use your voice and you use what you've learned and what you see to help other people. You cannot be successful if the people around you are not. And so they talked that way to me for my life. But I can just remember there was one time there was someone in our school teasing someone who had on like shoes that weren't the best. And all the kids are laughing and talking. And I'm like, pretty much like, really? Like, that is not kind. Like, we should not do that, And I just spoke up for Adeline. Her name was Adeline. I won't ever forget. But I spoke up for Adeline, and no one wanted to hang with Adeline. And she was, what they thought was like poor. She was a white girl, and her family did not have wealth. And so the kids tease her all the time. And so one day I went home and I said, Mom and Grandmother, I said, now most times when Black people are the ones that are getting teased and talked about, but at school, Adeline is always picked on. And I said, and today they were talking about her shoes, and I said blah, and they were like, there you go. That's what leaders do. They use their voice to affect change and to make think. And so early on, I knew that I would use my voice to help, but not, I couldn't define the words leadership at that time. Yeah.
That, when I think of you, Watasha, I do think of you being a voice in our community that people respect and listen to. And I can see that in you. And so that's really interesting for me, knowing you as I do, to see where that came from your mom and your grandmother and your aunts. That's really, if I had to say the heart of who you are, that's how I see you, as this voice of leadership that, that isn't afraid to speak out and to speak up for change and for people that are, under.
No.
Yeah.
Now, you said that's not afraid. I am a lot of the times afraid, but that's what leadership is that you are people who don't have a voice. They have a voice. Everyone has a voice, but they don't have a platform to be heard. And so there are some people in our community that have to use their voice to project what others need said. And so I just amplify the voices of others. But leadership is not just it's not in title. It's not in, because I have these 5, 6 things. I have this perfect resume, or these, I'm educated. It's not that. It's just that you make a conscious decision to want to see change and be a part of change, right? And it does take courage. But on the other side of courage, there's fear. So there's a lot of times that I do a lot of things, and I do it scared, but I know that if I don't say it, or if I don't start it, or if I don't act, that things will not change. And leaders are supposed to be those change agents. And a servant leader, someone who I don't just say it. I don't just say to my staff, go do this, or to other people, do this, or you should do that. Like, I will say things, but I'll also do those same things. I'm not too big to do the work.
Yes, absolutely. I see that so clearly in your life. So what's your greatest challenge as a leader?
My greatest challenge as a leader, again, is knowing that there's this weight, not a weight, that people look up to you. People are dependent on you. And sometimes as a leader, we need someone to depend on as well, right? Like, the leader needs support, and the helper needs help, right? So the hardest thing for me is when I kind of can get discouraged when I don't see things changing. You know what I mean? And although they may be changing, they may not be changing as the way I would like to see them change, or as quickly as, or in the direction that I thought it was going to go. But really, the challenge of just always feeling like you're like that they're dependent on you, right? So that pressure of, is this the right decision? Is this the right thing to say? What should I have done differently? That challenge of always knowing that people are watching and looking, and you're always in the eyes of folks, and some people are going to agree, some people are going to disagree, or somebody's always going to find fault. So that just recognizing that as a leader, I do what I feel called and compelled to do, and then I can't worry about all of the things that people could say or whatever. So, but that's the challenge. Some days I get up and I'm like, I just want to stay home, you know what I mean, and stay in the bed, or just sit on my couch, and then I know that I have a work to do. And so leadership, you don't turn it off. You're a leader. I can't, I want to go to the grocery store with my fluffy pajama pants on. I know that I'll see somebody. They'll be like, yeah, no. But leaders, they just have an obligation to community. And sometimes that burden gets heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you don't do it, that burden can be heavy. So
we're talking about leading like Jesus, and I understand for you, there's no separation between this is when I have my Jesus hat on and this is when I don't. But tell us how the relationship with Jesus, how being a Christian, how does that affect the ins and the outs of the day to the day to the day grind of being a leader for you?
So I have this T-shirt that says that Jesus was the ultimate social worker, because he led with love and light. He went to where the people were, and he always offered hope. Spiritually, he fed them spiritually, and he always also did some natural things for people, right? And so that shirt, I love my shirt. And every morning, when I wake up, I just say, this is the day the Lord has made. I'll rejoice and be glad. And I say, God, today, help me to be strong. Help me to be a light. I quote Matthew 5:16, let your light so shine before men, so they see your good works and glorify your Father who's in heaven. I want people to see the light, not of me, but of like Christ, so that they will be drawn closer. I want someone to say, gosh, what is it about her? Like, I don't always speak religion or say things about my faith to people, because, you kind of separate some of that. But if the opportunity, the door opens, absolutely, I do. Yeah. If I hug someone, I don't have to pray out loud. I can hug them and I can say, God, touch her. She walks into my office crying, I can do the same. My hand, our connection, I can intercede for her. And so I grew up in the church. We, our relationships with God are totally on. Anytime before you see me get up and talk to anyone, I'm going to pray and say, God, let my words be impactful. Let my words bring healing and change. And please, God, word my mouth. Like, right? Yeah, because there are sometimes I want to say so many things but I know that, literally what would Jesus do? And so I know that I was born here. He gave me some talents. He placed me on this earth. We all have a call. We all have a mission. And I know clearly now what mine is. And when I leave this earth, I want to go and him say, well done, Watasha. I want every single talent that he gave me, Jennifer, every talent that he gave me, I want to go back to him and say, I used everything you gave me. Others. And so that is what I really, really want to do. And even as a Christian, I don't get it right all the time. I have days where I'm like, girl, leave me alone. Like, you know what I mean? I just want to hole up and crawl and sit in my office and not be, you know what I mean? We all have those. Have I said the wrong thing sometimes? Absolutely. Am I too big to apologize? Nope. I apologize if I offended you. I'll do that. I'll try. But every single day is a new beginning, and we get grace and mercy every day. And so I wake up and I say, thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for grace. When I go to bed at night, thank you for the day, God. Anything that I did that was not like you, I ask for your forgiveness. Go to bed, and I wake up and say, thank you for another day and another chance to get it right. And so what I'll say about the YWCA is, and I tell our staff, we give grace here. If these women that we serve, if they had it all together, if they could do it right, they would not be in the positions that they are in. So give them some grace. If you say 12 and it's 12:10, if they knew how they've never been able to adhere to like structural norms. So give them some grace. You give her some supplies and she doesn't say thank you. She doesn't have to say thank you. She doesn't. We would love to have a thank you, but she doesn't have to, because we opened our doors and said, we are here for you. Like, so we want you to come in and we're going to provide you these things. And today you might feel crappy and don't say thank you because, darn it, you're at a homeless shelter. You're trying to find an apartment. DCS is on your back.
Yeah.
Hygiene supplies and you forgot to say thank you. Grace.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. Because without the grace of Jesus, we wouldn't be able to pass that grace on. So it's just so, that's so beautiful. So, okay, so I know that I told you this. We wanted to speak with you on leadership because you are one of the leaders we respect so much. But we ended up catching you on like a really busy week as far as using your voice in our community and in our nation, as we are so desperately trying to eliminate racial injustice and fight for the racial equality and the reconciliation that is not only a part of what the YWCA is about, but I know personally that's something that you're very passionate about. And when I think of the African American men and women in our community that I listen to, that I follow, that I support, you are at the top of that list. And so I know this week has been busy. There have been, the protests and the walks and the rallies and the forums, and you've been a part of all of them. And so I'm so grateful that you even took this minute to sit with us. But this has been a week where you have used your voice and you've used it really well. And I just want to hear from you on that, just some of your feelings on what's going on this week and how you've led through that, and how are you doing, and how can we be supportive, and just kind of speak to that.
This week has actually, it's absolutely been a trying week for all of us, like you said. And with my role at the YWCA as the CEO, our eliminate racism is the first part of our mission. Empower women is the other. You cannot empower women without working through the injustices that women face, that all people face, you know what I mean? And so eliminating racism is a huge component of what we do there. And as a member, myself as our chapter president for Indiana Black Expo, our mission is to be the effective voice and vehicle for the African American community, right? And so doing that work and being a part of the Martin Luther King Dream Team, where we talk and use our voice to make sure that his words and his actions are not forgotten. All those pieces play a huge part in me speaking, right? And so this week it was just, I think the first peaceful rally on Saturday was something that no one really knew was happening. It was kind of a thing that someone decided that they were going to just be out there and they were going to do. They tell me where, and I go down and I see a few people, and most of them are not Black or brown. And there were maybe 10 at that time. And so I got out and I stood, and Stephen Nip, who is well known here, he was out there. And there were me and another Black person. And so we just stood there in solidarity, and we just began to just talk, and very peaceful. Their intent was not to have any uproar at all. And we did that. And, I just happened to be there and say, look at this, people, look at what's happening. And I'll say at the Saturday when I was not a part of the putting that together, but there were some young kids, not even young, maybe 25-year-olds who came down with signs, beautiful signs. And their signs said things like literally the whole word, but they were like, F the police and all this. And we walked up to them and were like, could you please take those signs down? No, the police are causing all these injustices and this. I said, could you please take those signs down? That is not, we are here to peacefully share our feelings. We are not, our police in Muncie have not done any, we don't want to project that at all. And so we were able to, just a few of us, talk to these kids. And the surprising thing, they weren't Black and brown kids. So talk to them, to have them understand what we want to do. Our message cannot be heard if it's filled with hate, and we don't want hate here. These are all great things, and I want to be a part of them. But what I really want to see is that once the riots, or once the rioting across the country is over, once the marches have stopped, once the rallies have stopped, will we continue to move in a positive way to make sure that everyone is treated equally in our community, that racism is not accepted in our systems, right? Yeah. That's what I want to see. I don't mind the march, and I don't mind those things, but I do want to see this continue on. And so that's my prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, we're all I'm tired in my mind because we've been dealing with this for years. I think I told someone, people are dying unjustly. Unarmed people are dying. I'm for, if you do wrong, you need to pay for wrong, right? That's for anyone. So if people, Black and brown people, if they're dying, or if they've done things illegally, they absolutely should be held accountable for things. But to die for some of the things, that's a hurtful thing. And the fact that the list continues to grow longer and longer for the same types of things, and it's not being addressed. That's the hurtful part for me. And I have a son, and I had to tell him all these things before he leaves, and that gets tiring. That's not freedom for, kids. Little Shaka, don't have that hood on when you're out. Do not play that music loud. If you're now he's driving, if you go to that grocery store, you go in the store, make sure you got that receipt when you come out, don't horseplay in McDonald's with your friends and throwing ketchup packets. Don't do those things. Do you have your ID? Pull your pants up. You can't wear a do-rag. I want my hair to be. You cannot wear that outside. If you get pulled over, And so he's been learning that all of his life, right? And then his question to us recently, and this is what really tore us, was that he said, we do all of these things that you tell us to do. We've learned all this stuff, and we do all that stuff. And people still die, Mom. So what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, you keep doing it because we don't want you to be someone. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing that I don't think that we need to, that as a woman, as a mother, hurts to know that you have to worry every time your son goes out the door. You have to tell him all of these things, or he's not free to just be a goofly, gangly teenager. So yes, last night I looked at everyone on the panel of officers, all of the police officers, the captains, the county sheriff, and I said, will you keep my son safe? I just said those words. Will you keep all of our sons safe. Will you keep us safe? You know? And they were shaking their heads. And I'm like, thank you, you know, like actions speak louder than words, but thank you for at least saying yes. I said, so I don't care what's happening in Muncie, whatever's happening in our community before today, which was yesterday. I don't care what's happened before today. I give you grace. Today, let's move forward today in a better way. So yeah, it's been just a tiring time, but we've been doing this our entire life. So now it's just like, now it's no longer can be ignored, and we have got to make sure that all people matter and all of us are treated fairly. You know what I mean? And that's the work. In our community, they came out and they said that that's what they want to do. And so we are so appreciative of that.
Yeah, something about this event, I mean, it's certainly not the first time that somebody has been killed and you know, in a terrible, senseless way, but it ignited a new wave of awareness. And I'm so sorry that it happened, and I'm so grateful that it seems to have brought the issue to light as it should be. And obviously me personally and my family, and then also our church, like we just want to know, what else can we do? How can we use our voices in these coming weeks, you know, and in the coming months? What do we do to just continue to keep it up front and center and focused and, like you said, moving forward? So if there's anything else you'd like to share, I would love to hear it. And I'm just at your feet, like just listening and learning from you so much.
I think what you guys, you know, a lot of people have asked that, what can we do, or what should we be doing? And I think that the folks that are asking those questions are the ones who are doing. You're being the allies. You are, you know, you're listening. You are supportive. You come into places, and you know, you don't have to. Commonway doesn't have to spend time loving on all the women that we serve at birthday parties and all of the financial support that you all give. You know, you're serving and helping a diverse group of women, Black, white, Asian, like all of those women who are benefiting from what you're doing. Our relationships, you know, the relationship that I have with you, and it was definitely with Casey, and, you know, being able to have spaces where we can have conversations, whether they're uncomfortable conversations or ask those questions of each other. That's how, you know, there's no change without a relationship. And so people are saying Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. One of the things I said, do they really matter? And if they do, then you will get to know someone, you know, have the conversation with your kids about treating everybody fairly, you know, make sure that, you know, in your organization that you try to be diverse with your leadership or with your employees. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Have that conversation and get to know your Black and brown colleagues. You know what I mean? Don't shy away from saying, I don't know. Tell me, help me figure it out. Like, though, that's what we need. You know what I mean? But I think that we all are doing the best that we can. We're all trying to figure it out together. You know what I mean? But I just think that in this moment in time that Black people have protested and yelled so loudly and have tried to get some things changed, and they've not changed a lot in the recent, because the list of deaths keep getting longer. So what we need now is our white allies, our brothers and sisters, to speak as well and say, this is not right. And that's what we need from people. And not Jennifer necessarily getting out on the bullhorn and hollering and yelling, but doing those things, making sure that you show yourself friendly. And I know that you do. You know what I mean? I'm just, that we show ourselves friendly, that we get to know someone different from us, that we sit down with our kids and have those conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are the things.
Yeah.
And then just being an ally, you are there to support us. You stand with us. That's what we need.
Yeah. Well, I know you can call on us anytime you need, but obviously we'll try to also be proactive, like, you know, walking from the bell tower to the city hall. and all that. So you're going to do great. Just wear your Fitbit, get your extra steps for the day, and you're going to be awesome. And I am so grateful for you, Watasha. We'll continue to pray for the ministry at the YWCA, for you, for our community, and for just all of these opportunities we have to be love and light in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you for using your voice, Watasha.
Absolutely. Thank you. Be well.